Secondly, I invite you now to switch off all your mobile phones, please, or just put them into airplane mode. We are live streaming, we are recording, and obviously we would like to have that uninterrupted. We are also working with David here, who's going to translate consecutively for us as needs be. As I explained, yes, so we are a bilingual event this evening, and we are celebrating that. If you would like more bilingual excitements, please note that we have worked with our Irish language office as well to put all the information about the artist Sebastian on our webpage in Irish and in English, and also on our sign. So the sculpture sign, the information panel, is in Irish and English. So do please have a look at that as well. Now, welcome. My name is Catherine Giltrap. I am the curator of the art collections here at the university. It is my great pleasure to welcome you here this evening to Trinity College Dublin for the first of two special events to honour Mexico's most celebrated contemporary sculptor, Sebastian, and his donation to our campus. On behalf of the university, I would like to extend special thanks to the artist for this donation and to the Mexican ambassador to Ireland, as well as his warm and welcoming team with whom we've been collaborating for some time now. We are particularly grateful to Smurfit Kappa for their ongoing support of this annual Mexican lecture at Trinity College. The Embassy and Smurfit Kappa have made it possible for the artist to visit us direct from Mexico. In fact, Sebastian is in Ireland to attend a number of ceremonies, specifically to honour the fact that he has donated 4 sculptures to Ireland, to Cork, to Clifton, to Dublin, under the auspices of Dublin City Council, and to us here at Trinity College, all now publicly accessible. As I'm sure many of you are aware, we are fortunate at Trinity College to have a rich and varied, shall I say, collection of fine art and silver, spanning some 6 centuries, with works dating from 1500s to the present day. Over the past few years, we have been implementing projects to raise the awareness of these collections and to encourage increased access for research, for teaching, and for general curiosity and enjoyment, all which lie at the heart of the mission of our university. In fact, during 2016, we will launch the art collections online. But there are already many ways to enjoy our art collections and the visual arts in general on campus, whether you're a student, a staff member, or a visitor. We have some 3,000 artworks distributed throughout up to 500 locations at any one time, as far away as our teaching facilities in St. James's Hospital and Telehospital. And here beside us, in this very lecture theatre, we have a display of artworks. We've actually set up an exhibition space. And we have an exhibition, and you're more than welcome to view it after the lecture. We also have an exhibition on tour at present, which was initiated with Lismore Castle Art Gallery in Waterford and continues at the Glebe Gallery up in Donegal. And next year we will see it travel to a number of other venues. Our art collections live and breathe with us in this campus. And what's more, for 55 years now, the campus community, students and staff alike, have been involved in the process of selecting the art for the collections, and most wonderfully, the art that actually accompanies them in their study and work environments. A special hire scheme was set up of the modern artworks was set up in 1960 and continues to operate and develop today. This system enables us to continue to acquire contemporary art and to keep our collections and connections vital. On campus here at Trinity College, Sebastian's Teach Múl reinforces a powerful sculptural lineage, associating itself most particularly with Henry Moore's work in Library Square, entitled Reclining Connected Forms from 1969. And you will see it at the lower register there in the middle. That's our Henry Moore. Moore stated that from an early age, he was captivated by Mexican sculpture, particularly the Chocmool type of figure, leading him in 1929 to carve his own Chocmool in Hornton stone, and Moore later described this as one of the key works of his career, and it is now on display in the Leeds Art Gallery in England. It is this interest in, as Moore put it, forms that really existed and worked against each other that led Moore to develop from the Chocmool type his world-renowned reclining figures. Sebastian's turquoise Chocmool is a vital contemporary invitation to engage with figure, form, colour and sculpted space within a rich visual arts ancestry. Our evening tonight will take the following format. In a moment, I will invite Deputy Head of Mission from the Mexican Embassy, Enrique Palos, to address us and then to introduce Sebastian. Sebastian will then speak to us about his creative process and demonstrate his transformables, and you will discover what they are in a moment. We will also see 2 videos explaining his work. We will then finish with some time for questions, and we would invite you to contribute to that, of course. And we aim to finish up at 7:15, 7:30 at the max. And now I am delighted to invite you to welcome to the podium Deputy Head of Mission, Enrique Palos.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Ambassador Garcia de Alba apologized for not being here today with us, but he had to attend an unexpected duty out of Dublin. He's now in the airport in Shannon. First of all, allow me to express our deep gratitude for the continuous and priceless support of Trinity College Dublin to the Mexican lecture, to its provost, Dr. Patrick Prendergast, and to Catherine Giltrap, the amazing, professional, and efficient curator of the college art collections. Thank you. As well as to Tony Smurfit, president of Smurfit Kappa and honorary consul of Mexico in Kildare, whose great generosity makes possible this important series of annual lectures. Thank you very much to all 3 for their interest, professional support, and friendship. I also would like to thank all of you that are attending this important event. First, a little bit of history. The origin of these lectures delivered by distinguished Mexican intellectuals from a quite diverse list of subjects and from different disciplines, ranging from political science to history to literary culture and art, is a memo of understanding signed here in Dublin between the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Mexico and Trinity College on 15 December 2003. Its first incumbent was the celebrated novelist Carlos Fuentes, who, as you know, sadly left us in 2013, followed by illustrious names such as Elena Poniatowska, the famous writer, Enrique Krause, and Jose Goldenberg, among others. This is a special occasion because this year we celebrate the 40th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between Mexico and Ireland. And we will have the privilege of hearing one of the most, if not the most, renowned sculptors in the Mexican art scene, Sebastian, who will give us an insight into his work and his experiences as an artistic creator. Thanks, Sebastian, for being here. Let me tell you that while Sebastian has done architectural design, painting, art objects, furniture design, jewelry, custom design, set design, and multimedia shows, he's best known for his over 200 monumental works of steel and/or concrete in both Mexico and abroad. These include a number of gates, sculptures such as La Gran Puerta in Matamoros in the northeast border of Mexico and Texas. His most famous sculpture, El Caballito, placed as the modern substitute of the original monument, a celebrated masterpiece of the 18th century's architect Manuel Tolsa in downtown Mexico City, and several works located in many cities such as Kingston, Buenos Aires, Havana, Montevideo, Rio de Janeiro, Albuquerque, Denver, New York, Bern, Hakone, Nagoya, and Osaka in Japan. These include El Quijote in Alcalá de Henares in Spain, the Phoenix Arch in the city of Sakai, Japan, used as its symbol, is the icon of the city. A similar piece called Tsuru for the city of Kadoma, Japan, and the sculpture for the Kadoma sports centers, and a long, etc., etc. His work is considered to be unique in Mexico and Latin America, and much of his style can be traced to his second solo exhibition, where he displayed ostensibly simple works in cardboard that he called desplegables, like folders. These seemingly small works became the base of ideas for his later monumental works made with tons of iron and concrete. Much of his sculptural work has kinetic appeal, and if the parts do not move, and of course, even if the parts do not move, and of course, geometric concepts are also very important to his work. Sebastian was born Enrique Carvajal González in 1947 in Santa Rosalía de Camargo, Chihuahua, in northern Mexico. He studied in the National Plastic Arts School in Mexico City. He started in 1964, heavily influenced by the work of Henry Moore and Pablo Picasso. He won his first award in the 1965 annual exposition at the school. At 21, has his first individual show featuring his ceramic work in the Art Museum of Ciudad Juárez, and adopted the pseudonym Sebastián after the painting of San Sebastian by Botticelli. Since then, he has had over 120 individual exhibitions in over 20 countries around the world. In addition to his creative activities, he has been involved in the academy, giving courses, workshops, and conferences at various universities and other institutions in Mexico and abroad. On a permanent basis, he has been a professor and researcher at the National Autonomous University of Mexico for over 25 years. Among many other awards in his outstanding career, Sebastián won the grand prize and gold prize of the A-Org 200 in Osaka, the La Médaille de la Ville de Paris in France, and the Jerusalem Prize for the Zionist Federation of Mexico and the City of Jerusalem, just to name a few. Of course, an artist of his stature must have a cultural foundation and a museum with his name. Therefore, the Cultural Foundation Sebastián was founded in 1997 with him as first president, as a non-governmental cultural organization to promote Mexican cultural values, especially the arts, sponsoring artistic expressions by young artists, and promoting techniques to preserve artworks to avoid their loss because of expensive renovation works. The Museo Sebastián is located in the city of Chihuahua and contains a permanent collection of Sebastián work on display, as well as areas for cultural events. Sebastián currently lives and has his workshop in Mexico City, where we imagine he's constantly planning a new surprise for the world of art. But let's listen Sebastián himself. So let me finish by inviting you, all of you, to attend two important events tomorrow. At 10 o'clock, the unveiling of An Kailing Ben at Sandy Mount Strand, And at noon, at the unveiling of Chuck Moll. Chuck Moll is mad. Here at Trinity College at the Lincoln Gate. In both cases, Sebastian himself being present. So please, I ask an applause for the artist and we'll start. Thank you.
Muchas gracias. Es verdaderamente una emoción muy especial para mí estar por segunda vez aquí en Trinity College. Y primero quiero agradecer a Patrick Pendergast, Provost, que para nosotros es el rector, a Catherine Kiltrop, okay. Sorry, but it's Catherine. Thank you, Catherine. Yo sé lo que ella ha trabajado para que el Chuck Moll vuelva a estar en su lugar y esté restaurado.
I know the work that you have done, the effort that you've put in to make Chuck Moll happen here, and I appreciate it greatly.
Y quiero agradecer también a mi amigo mexicano, el señor embajador Carlos García de Alba, que gracias a él hizo la continuidad de volver a reinaugurar las esculturas en Irlanda.
And I'd especially like to thank His Excellency, the Ambassador of Mexico, who has continued to reinforce connections between Ireland and Mexico and to reinaugurate the sculpture in Sandymount.
Y agradecer a todos su presencia y quiero empezar a explicarles cómo me formé, quién soy como escultor.
And lastly, I'd like to thank all you who have come here this evening. Thank you very much. I'm going to begin by explaining a little bit about how I became who I am.
Yo soy un norteño de México, de la parte norte de la República, de Chihuahua.
I'm from the north of Mexico, from the northern region in a city called Chihuahua.
Y nací plásticamente en la década, finales de la década de los 60s.
And I was born in an artistic sense at the end of the
60s.
At the end of the 1960s.
Sí. En donde las tendencias fundamentales de lo plástico, de las pues tendencias artísticas de ese momento las fundamentales eran el minimalismo, el op art, el pop art y el cinetismo.
At a time in the 60s when the predominant art movements were op art, pop art, minimalism.
Minimalism and cinetismo, kinetic art.
And kinetic art and movement art.
Ahí empezó mi carrera y los primeros objetos que yo diseñé fueron cargados de una influencia del cinetismo, del kinetic art.
So I began my work under these circumstances, under these foundations. It was kinetic art that was the most important influence at that stage.
Yo empecé a crear un sistema para poder crear mi lenguaje de estructuras transformables a partir de los 5 sólidos platónicos.
I began to develop my own artistic language through the medium of kinetic art by focusing specifically on the 5 platonic solids.
Y utilicé la cristalografía. La cristalografía es la rama pues científica para estudiar los cristales de roca, el ordenamiento de los cristales de roca en la naturaleza.
And I used crystallography, the scientific technique of crystallography, to begin my analysis of the Platonic solids.
Y utilicé el sistema regular de la cristalografía.
I used the base system of crystallography to develop this.
Utilicé también lo que llamamos cinta de Mobius, esta cinta que es una función topológica dentro de las matemáticas.
And then, as well as that, one of the great influences was the concept of the Mobius strip, the topological form of the Mobius strip that became strongly.
Y una cosa muy importante que debía de tenerlo en mi producto, que era el sentimiento poético.
But all of this, most importantly, all this science was based on poetic expression.
No quiero hablar mucho porque quiero que vean un video en donde van a poder ver más clara toda mi producción en más corto tiempo.
I don't want to explain too much because I'm going to show you a video that will explain much more in much less time.
¿Y podemos ver el video? Me formé con la inmensidad del paisaje de mi estado natal, me formé con la luz, con el color de esa región. Soy originario de una ciudad, de un pueblo muy pequeño, Camargo, Chihuahua. Tuve la suerte que fuera la tierra de David Alfaro Siqueiros y que eso marcó mi vocación y mi carrera. En Chihuahua no había una escuela de arte, no había simplemente. Entonces, mi maestra de inglés, Enriqueta Visconti, fue quien me dijo, debes dejar esta ciudad e irte a estudiar a México, a la Academia de San Carlos, y luego irte por el mundo, y entonces tienes que formarte y convertirte en un gran artista. Tú vas a llegar, y me metió en la cabeza eso y yo me la creí. Entonces, por eso estoy aquí, ¿no?
Since the middle 60s, the young Enrique Carvajal's artistic vocation drove him to do research into scientific disciplines in order to develop his artistic work.
Yo soy un autodidacta de corazón en toda mi carrera. Lo único que estuve yo estudiando fue pintura, escultura, dibujo, grabado en la Academia de San Carlos. Pero toda mi formación, de todo mi lenguaje, de todo lo que yo hago actualmente, de toda la mezcla de los medios científicos para llegar al fin plástico, han sido autodidactas. Entonces empecé estudiando primero geometría en unas lecciones muy antiguas de Alberto Durero. Entonces me puse a estudiar geometría euclidiana y descubrí que había también geometría no euclidiana. Y entonces descubrí que había las vetas hacia la topología, hacia la contemplación del espacio, la transformación del espacio, y luego también a todas las geometrías, a la fractal, a todos los descubrimientos actuales dentro de la ciencia, de las matemáticas, en donde la geometría ha sido fundamental.
Sebastian creates rhythm using and repeating an element, and then suddenly the element gets broken, causing a surprise and extending an invitation to play.
Mi idea se inició en un momento en que las tendencias plásticas del momento, el minimalismo, el cinetismo, el op art y el pop art eran las más importantes. Pero el cinetismo me fascinó a través de Julio Lepar, en una gran exposición que yo vi en Bellas Artes, y de ahí empecé a pensar en la geometría y empecé a pensar en los 5 cuerpos regulares y en cómo hacer un sistema transformable en donde los modelos fueran modelos matemáticos, pero se transformaran en modelos escultóricos y permitieran al espectador la participación activa, el placer lúdico y el encuentro, la sorpresa por medio del color para aprender también, para que fueran didácticos en cuanto a la teoría del color y a las combinaciones de color. Todo eso en un solo objeto que fuera de participación activa y diera toda la lección de lo que es la transformación en el espacio, de la forma, de los volúmenes, de los modelos.
Me hace sentir como si estuviera viendo magia, como de dónde sale tantas formas, tantas figuras, y de pronto sale una y saca otra y las junta, se forma una más grande, y entonces para mí es sorprendente, es mágico.
Cómo juega con la forma, cómo juega con los espacios, con los tiempos y con los colores, en algo que nadie más ha hecho. Y yo he tenido la fortuna de verlo en escenarios abiertos y escuchar y ver a Sebastián explicando sus formas, sus cubos a los niños, y cómo los niños se han quedado maravillados escuchando y viendo a Sebastián y sus formas.
His vision of art is that of a geometrist and a mathematician, while also that of a passionate and romantic human being, which he projects through his own language.
El trabajo musical exacto, en donde si bien las matemáticas están presentes porque hay una escritura musical basada en una cuestión rítmica, matemática, esto está muy ligado al trabajo de Sebastián como un artista, en donde la cuestión de las matemáticas y las ciencias están presentes en equilibrio con la manifestación artística pura.
Pero claro, yo soy un mestizo en mi visión plástica, pero a través de esa mezcla vienen muchas otras, y viene una cultura tremenda grecolatina y luego la cultura indígena mezclada, que la traemos dentro, no podemos separarla, y entonces aflora, brota y se hace presente en mi obra.
De los elementos que menos esperamos, él saca arte y los plasma en figuras y en colores para todos los demás inimaginables, y que al momento de verlas ya expuestas, hechas realidad, esas piezas monumentales, en algunos casos unas moles verdaderas, nos dejan a todos maravillados de lo que este hombre imagina en su cabeza, y de que lo que Sebastián puede transformar en metales, en pesos, en volúmenes, en colores, y volverlos arte, ¿no? Es un genio simplemente.
Bueno, mi lenguaje se describe como un lenguaje que parte de la geometría, igual como la literatura, que necesita las letras, las palabras, las sílabas, las frases. De la misma manera uso la geometría, y entonces armo, codifico un lenguaje, encuentro un código muy sebastino, transformar los planos y hacer la comprensión de que con 2 dimensiones podía ir yo hasta n dimensiones, no solo a tercera dimensión, sino brincar de 2 dimensiones enrolladas y llegar a la cinta de Mobius y pasar a n dimensiones. Y le llamo así, es un lenguaje sebastino, no puede ser de otra manera, porque es mío, porque yo lo he creado. Para la concepción de una obra, pues siempre hay un poco de ocio, pero verdaderamente es cuando más se trabaja, porque se trabaja intelectualmente. Uno está pensando y está ordenando todo ese bagaje cultural de información que tiene uno para poder tener la idea de un concepto, pues está ahí en la información y lo va uno digiriendo hasta que se da cuenta uno de que ya está pleno para poder concebir algo, y empiezas a trabajar entregado con pasión de lo que ya sabes que vas a hacer. Empiezas a trazar, calculo mis proporciones, cuáles van a ser las constantes, hago a lo mejor un módulo que puede ser el que va a generar todo lo que suceda en la estructura. Cuando ya estoy con eso, empiezo a recortar el cartón y empiezo a armar, y entonces ya se empieza a ver un volumen y ya sé qué va a ser la estructura total. Una vez que tengo las maquetas, nos vamos a la computadora y hacemos el cálculo estructural, hacemos los planos, hacemos todo lo que necesito para hacer existir la obra. Y entonces se pueden hacer obras en diferentes escalas. Y eso lo hago en el taller. Se arman, se sueldan, hay un armador especializado, hay un pulidor, hay un soldador, hay un pintor, y cada uno tiene su especialidad para ir produciendo toda la obra. Mi preocupación en la escultura es que el movimiento es fundamental. Siempre deben de tener movimiento, aunque no sea real, aunque sea virtual, y de cualquier punto que se vean, el espectador sienta que están en constante transformación, que están vivas, por decirlo de alguna manera.
Ahead of his time, while at the same time a symbol of his generation, Sebastian is a creator, perfectly defined by the adjective multidisciplinary. His artistic creations include sculpture, painting, print work, architectural design, industrial design, performance art, jewelry, fashion design, as well as many avant-garde projects in the world of science and art, an example of which can be found in his cultivated sculptures.
Siempre he estado investigando y haciendo, metiéndome en diferentes propuestas, y este momento fue de cómo hacer una geometría creada por mí, sacada de un ordenador y razonada como geometría fractal, y luego metida al mar a que se cargara con un sistema de electrodepositación, se cargara de las sales y de los pequeños organismos y se fuera convirtiendo en piedra esas superficies, pero la manera de cómo se unen es también fractal. Entonces había como una doble fractalidad que era la que el hombre piensa y estructura en las piezas de hierro, y la que los animales y la naturaleza también pétrea de la electricidad y las sales de la electrólisis se formaba en el proceso de espacio-tiempo.
Sebastian has had more than 170 individual exhibitions across the world, and his monumental sculptures are widely distributed throughout.
El espíritu humano siempre ha necesitado tener íconos hitos, marcas a través de la historia de la humanidad, o para no perderse, o para un acto religioso, o para una conmemoración, o simplemente para una decoración. Y lo que yo hago actualmente es ese tipo de monumentos, de hitos monumentales, que son para eso, para ubicar en una ciudad, darle personalidad a un entorno, integrarse con lo urbano y convertirse en parte del pueblo y hacerse absolutamente democrática, transformar absolutamente democrático al arte.
Among the long list of prizes Sebastian has been awarded are the Jerusalem Prize, awarded in 2005 by the State of Israel, the Paris Medal, awarded in France. His sculpture, The Peace Arch, was awarded the Excellence Prize at the Symposium and Exhibition of Urban Sculpture in Beijing, China. He was the sculptor who won the commission to create the Phoenix Arch, symbol of Sakai City, Japan. The Great Prize and the Golden Prize at the Orc City competition in Osaka, Japan. In 1995, Sebastian won the competition to construct the symbol of Kadoma City, Japan, with his sculpture, Tsuru.
Kadoma es una ciudad en donde las garzas son símbolo de la ciudad, la garza blanca llamada Tsuru. Entonces, lo que yo hice para competir en ese encuentro fue hacer un símil o un paralelo con la creación literaria más importante del pueblo japonés, que es el haiku, que es el poema más corto, de 5 sílabas, que con eso dicen el universo. Entonces, trabajé en 5 proporciones, 5 módulos, y entonces con esos elementos dije garza, y la dije muy sintética. La garza se para en el agua, en una sola pata, levanta la otra y la esconde en el plumaje, y revolotean sus alas.
To date, Sebastian's successful career has been recognized with 5 doctorate degrees, awarded to him by the University of Chihuahua, the University of La Laguna, Torreón, the University of Colima, the Metropolitan Autonomous University, Mexico City, and the City College in New York City.
Han decidido escribir sobre mi obra algunos matemáticos para mi nuevo libro. Entonces visité a uno de ellos en Nueva York, a Posamentier, y le expliqué todo lo que era mi obra y el contenido de mi obra en relación con las matemáticas y la geometría. Y seguimos hablando por mucho tiempo, y entonces citó a sus colaboradores y les seguí platicando y explicando. Y yo me sentía en mi mero mole, y yo hablaba y me preguntaban, y yo no me había dado cuenta que lo que estaban haciendo es que me estaban haciendo una especie de examen. Y entonces ahí en esa reunión sucedió que se pusieron de acuerdo y me dieron un doctorado, el doctorado honoris causa de City College. Entonces es una anécdota maravillosa en la historia de mi vida.
¿Quién no conoce a Sebastián? Una autoridad de la plástica internacional, orgullosamente mexicano.
Es el más grande de todos los escultores vivos que existen en este momento dentro del panorama mundial. Y también hablando de su línea geométrica, creo que es el más importante de todos.
Para mí, Sebastián es un orgullo de México para el mundo. Que Dios lo bendiga y te conserve por muchos años y sigas poniendo el nombre de México muy en alto como hasta ahora.
Lo más gratificante, que no lo puede uno comprar con nada ni conseguir con nada, simplemente se da, es el placer estético, el momento de concluir una obra y el goce profundo de verla y de soñarla en todo su esplendor, de cómo va a ser o monumental o en otras medidas, y verla claramente en la maqueta y ver que vibra y que existe. Y el placer del goce estético de esa obra, cuando está perfecta y está bien concebida. Es vida, es vital, es muy humano. Entonces es tan bello y tan profundo que bueno, por eso uno sigue haciendo obras para buscar ese placer y ese momento que no se compra con nada.
Sebastian expresses a sculptural visual art projected at an international level, for which he has been recognized as one of the greatest Mexican contemporary sculptors.
La mejor obra está por llegar. Esta pieza es un cubo perforado, que el hecho de estar perforado ya lo convierte en una geometría no euclidiana.
So this is a cube, a perforated cube, and through a process of kinetic movement, it's going to transform into something outside of the dimensions of Euclidean geometry.
El cubo está dedicado a Leonardo, se llama Leonardo IV.
It's dedicated to Leonardo, and it's called Leonardo IV.
Y es una transformación topológica.
And it's a topological transformation.
Y siempre se está transformando en otras esculturas.
Which is constantly transforming itself into other sculptures.
Todos los transformables que les voy a mostrar son diseñados finales de los 60s hasta el 73.
Everything that I will show you now, all the transformables were designed from the end of the 60s up until 1973.
Siempre vuelve a su estado inicial.
And they always.
Muchas gracias. Yo les iba a decir que si no les gustaba, no aplaudieran, pero creo que sí les gustó.
He always says that if the public don't applaud, they don't like it. So thank you for applauding.
Otro cubo.
Another cube.
Dedicado a Albert Dürer.
This time dedicated to Albert Dürer.
Por sus lecciones de geometría. Yo estudié geometría euclidiana en unas lecciones de geometría de Albert Dürer del Renacimiento alemán. Eran lecciones muy viejas y ahí me apasioné por la geometría euclidiana.
I first discovered Euclidean geometry through the old studies of Albert Dürer into the concept of Euclidean geometry, and this was my first entry into the phenomenon.
En ese momento yo me di cuenta que existía geometría no euclidiana.
And it was at this moment that I discovered that there are geometries outside of Euclidean geometry.
Y yo me topé con Lobachevsky, y me topé con Gauss, y me topé con Bolyai, que son los creadores de la transformación de la geometría no euclidiana.
And I started to discover Gauss, Lobachevsky,
y
Bolyai, who were the first to introduce the concept of non-Euclidean geometries.
Ellos, a partir de tratar de resolver el quinto postulado de Euclides, decidieron partir hacia una geometría imaginaria no euclidiana, y entonces se transformó la geometría del universo, y es lo que nos permite ahora estudiar el espacio más profundamente.
So by way of attempting to solve the fifth postulate, they developed a new form of geometry outside of Euclidean geometry, and this has resulted in these works.
Y por eso le dediqué este cubo a Durero 4, a Durero.
And for this reason it's dedicated to Albert Dürer.
Y se llama Durero 4.
And it's called Dürer 4.
Esto sigue siendo un cubo topológicamente, espacialmente.
Topologically, we are still left with a cube. Spatially, we are still left with the same object.
E igual, siempre vuelve a ser cubo.
And it always returns.
Gracias. Este es un ejemplo de los cubos originales hechos de cartón.
This is an example of one of the original cubes that I made from cardboard.
Los anteriores son de plástico inyectado.
What we've seen before have all been made of
Son
polymers of plastic.
ediciones de 500 cubos en diferentes colores, ¿no?
There are examples of 500 cubes originally in different colors.
Pero estos son los originales muy viejos.
But these are some of the originals, some of the very old ones.
Este está dedicado a un pintor mexicano muy reconocido y excelente pintor mexicano que se llama Rufino Tamayo.
This piece is dedicated to Rufino Tamayo, a Mexican painter, a very well-known Mexican painter.
Y todo el mundo se pregunta por qué y cómo, dónde está Rufino Tamayo. Es que Tamayo pintó las sandías más bellas del universo, sandías, ¿cómo se dice? Watermelon. Entonces lo que yo hice fue hacer en un cubo unas sandías en homenaje a Tamayo. Entonces,
many people ask why this is dedicated to this Mexican painter. Well, he's famous for painting watermelons, and what I have done here is taken the concept of a watermelon and turned it into a cube.
está vivo.
It's alive.
y siempre vuelve a ser cubo.
And it always comes out cube.
Les voy a mostrar este objeto que hace 2 años yo diseñé. Yo estaba en Texas, en la Universidad de Texas, en el departamento de física, con un amigo, el doctor Yacamán, que es el director del departamento de física. Me dijo, ven, te quiero enseñar los nanocristales de oro en el... Ay, perdón.
The seed of this idea. The seed of this idea came from a time that I spent at the University of Texas with one of the professors in the department who first showed me nanocrystals.
De oro.
Gold nanocrystals.
Y me explicaba físicamente la simetría 5 dentro, desde el punto de vista físico, dentro de los cristales de oro o de los nanocristales.
And he explained to me the concept of supersymmetry, of symmetry, of fifth dimensional symmetry that is visible, that is tangible, observing gold nanocrystals through a microscope.
Y me dijo, piensa algo en simetría 5 en tu geometría y constrúyelo y vamos a ver qué resulta.
So he planted the idea in my mind. Think of the idea of fifth symmetry, of supersymmetry, design something and see what happens.
Entonces yo me regresé a mi estudio y trabajé y el primer modelo fue este.
So I returned to my studio, I began to work, and the first model that was produced was this.
Si ven este modelo, son 2 conos incrustados. Las cónicas son fundamentales para la comprensión del espacio-tiempo en física.
What we're looking at are 2 cones that have merged with each other. The idea of cones are essential or fundamental to the basis of geometry.
Y estos están trabajados en simetría 5, en las proporciones. Entonces lo que ven aquí es geometría euclidiana. No tiene chiste, ¿no?
So what you're looking at here is something that is truly developed in supersymmetry. Even though it exists in the world, it exists in the world of Euclidean geometry. It's not a joke. It's very serious.
Yes. And exists here, but in this en este momento, cuando yo le doy la vuelta, se convierte en geometría no euclidiana, en geometría en donde la simetría 5 empieza a trabajar.
So when it's rotated, it starts to operate outside of Euclidean geometry. It starts to exist in the world of supersymmetry.
Porque si observan, y yo recorro con mi dedo las superficies, puedo darle la vuelta a toda la pieza y es una sola superficie, es 2 dimensiones, solamente esto, aunque parezca 3 dimensiones. La cáscara, ¿no?
So after that transformation, it is now essentially an object in 2 dimensions. It has only one side. You can trace your finger from one side all the way around and lead back to the origin again.
Y solo una arista.
And only one edge as well.
Only one. Entonces, esto fue el principio de las esferas cuánticas, ¿sí? Y con simetría 5. Entonces yo se lo mostré a mi amigo, el doctor Yacamán, y me dijo, perfecto, préstamelas, que las vean mis alumnos, porque vamos a ir en estas direcciones, ¿no? Eso fue maravilloso.
So this was the beginning of what ultimately developed into what I will show you later, quantum spheres. And when I showed this to Dr. Jaqueman, the first thing he said was, give me these things. These are the perfect illustration to my students as to what supersymmetry is, what symmetry 5 is.
Esto ya no son dos conos, es una transformación constante de toda la cinta en dirección positiva y negativa, ¿no?
So what started as two cones perforating each other has transformed into something with only one side, something that's two-dimensional.
Sí. Y luego pueden ver esto, que es verdaderamente simetría 5. ¿Sí?
So now when we open it up, we see this.
Entonces, y vuelve a ser 3 dimensiones.
And then it goes back to being two cones.
Esto para enseñarles un cubo que se llama cuántico, que tiene una esfera cuántica dentro.
So now I'm going to display a quantum sphere, a sphere with a quantum inside.
Es cuántico. Está bonito.
It's beautiful.
Esto son 3 dimensiones, son 2 conos otra vez incrustados y son superficies de rotación y se convierte en volumen. Son 2 conos.
Again, another object that is made of 2 cones that are perforating each other, an object that exists in 3 dimensions.
Pero en el momento en que sucede esto, vuelve a pasar lo que en el anterior.
But the moment of rotation transforms it into
Las
what we see
superficies
before.
Ya son 2 dimensiones.
Now we're looking at an object with only 2 dimensions.
Esto matemáticamente se puede comprobar.
This can be proven mathematically in a formula.
Y tiene dirección negativa y positiva según la simetría. Pero igual tiene también la misma simetría. Y luego, pues, es otra simetría, es la misma. Y siempre esto, porque a mí me gustaría que pasara el video y rojo haciendo las ecuaciones para meterlo a la animación y resultó la esfera.
This video that you will see was developed by a mathematician who took the previous concept, developed it mathematically into the form of equations, and produced this.
Muchas gracias. Bueno, para concluir la presentación, quiero presentarles esta pieza que se llama Brancusi 4.
So to conclude, I'd like to present this final object, which is called Brancusi number 4.
Es muy minimalista.
It's very minimalist.
Y poco a poco se va haciendo compleja.
And little by little, it starts to become more and more complicated, more and more complex.
Y siempre se vuelve a convertir en cubo. Muchas gracias. Y hay tiempo para preguntas.
Muchas gracias. Thank you. Well, how's that for visual communication? I think you can see why we had to get him over from Mexico to Ireland to be with us today and for our launch tomorrow. I came across a quote from the 20th century artist Jean Arp the other day, and he said of his own sculptures, "I work until enough of my life has flowed into its body." And I'm sure you'll agree that Sebastian, after this great presentation, infuses the same passion and energy into his own work. And how it engages with the faculties of the brain and the aesthetic realms of the heart as well. Now we have time for some questions. And I'm going to start them off very briefly, and then we'll open it up to yourselves. But I'm just going to start off with our own sculpture, the Chak Mul, and how it came about. Tell us a little bit about the heritage of the Chak Mul type of figure, and anything else you'd like to tell us about, especially the colour. We were interested in the colour and the significance of the colour. So I'll leave that up to you.
La pregunta es sobre la concepción de Chak Mul, del proyecto aquí, la concepción y sobre todo el color, el desarrollo del color.
El Chak Mul es una figura muy importante en la cultura prehispánica de la zona del altiplano mexicano, de todas las culturas en la región, porque es el símbolo del guardián y del dios al mismo tiempo de Chak, que cuida las tumbas.
The Chak Mul is a very typical, very recognizable image in Mexico of Mayan origin. The Chak Mul is the guardian of the gods and the messenger to the gods.
Y el color para ese Chak Mul, yo lo pensé siempre en los colores que son fundamentales y muy simbólicos para el mundo prehispánico.
And in terms of the color, I always had in mind those primary colors, very recognizable from pre-Columbian times.
Pero son dos colores, siempre puede tener un verde esmeralda o un azul turquesa, porque son símbolos de poder, son más importantes para el mundo prehispánico que el oro.
So the color green is emerald green and the blue is turquoise blue, which for the pre-Columbians were colors that were richer than gold and had more value than gold.
Uno es el color de la nobleza y el otro es el color del poder.
One is the color of nobility and the other is the color of power.
Entonces cualquier color que el Chak Mul tenga tiene sentido.
So whatever color the chacmol had,
de esos dos colores.
of these two colors in combination, this was the meaning of the chacmol, this was the significance.
Pero puede tener también un color rojo, sangre, y adquiere también el sentido justo para ese lugar, ¿no?
But it can also have a blood red color that is very specific and very significant.
Para una pirámide, para estar en una pirámide.
To be beside a Mayan pyramid. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, that's wonderful. And now we're going to open it up to the audience, and we have a mic that Carolyn's going to bring to anybody who would like to ask a question. So if you want to ask a question, would you mind putting your hands up? And then Carolyn will come up to you, and as we're recording it, we'd like to be able to use the mic to get your question. Who else would like to ask a question so we know where you are? Okay, perfect.
Primero, bienvenida a mi país. How important has the computer age been to your work, and has it advanced not only the number of designs but also the complexity of those designs?
Si puedes explicar un poco del desarrollo de la computadora en tu trabajo, si los avances han sido avances tuyos.
Yo empecé a finales de los 60s con esos transformables y siempre pensé en las multidimensiones y fundamentalmente en cuarta dimensión.
Even from the 60s, when I was developing these projects, I was thinking outside of three dimensions, into the fourth dimension.
Pero en ese momento, usar una computadora, eran computadoras casi del tamaño de esta sala, y me acuerdo que me costaba $100 la hora de una persona especialista en poderla usar, ¿no?
But at that time, computers were pretty much the size of this room, and the charge was $100 an hour for the use of the computer.
Entonces, yo en ese tiempo, pues, era un estudiante sin posibilidades, ¿no? Y entonces pensé que pensando con la mente, con el corazón y con mis manos, podía hacer mi sistema. Y entonces hice este sistema.
So I began as a student with very little recourses, with very little finances, to think beyond the third dimensions with my heart and with my mind, and the product was
and my hands.
And my hands.
Sí, pero después he utilizado las computadoras maravillosamente, porque ahora sí podemos hacerlo, porque hasta es muy fácil poner cuarta dimensión y uno ve la cuarta dimensión.
But now it has transformed into a tool that is almost immediate in the development of these projects. If I want to apply the fourth dimension to an object in 3D space in a computer, I just press a button and do so.
Y sí utilizo diferentes programas, el Rhino o el 3D, no sé cómo se dice en inglés, en 3 dimension. Okay. Y utilizo también la impresora en 3 dimensiones. Entonces, trabajamos ya con eso.
So now I'm using 3D printing, additive construction. Rhino is the program. Rhino is the name of the program that I use to manipulate these spaces.
Sí.
Sorry, and just to get a sense of the man himself, what was your family's work?
Que quería saber sobre el hombre. ¿Tu familia qué hizo? ¿Tus padres?
Mis padres. No, yo soy un caso extraño. Yo no tuve padre, tuve nada más mi madre y mi abuela. Y 2 hermanos, medios hermanos.
I am a strange example. I had in my house just my mother and my grandmother and my 2 brothers.
Y me fui a estudiar solo a la Ciudad de México, sin nada, a los 16 años, y ahí me formé solo.
So when I moved, it was really when I moved to Mexico City, to the capital, when I was 16, I began to form myself.
Pero tuve un apoyo muy fuerte. Mi maestra de inglés, Enriqueta Visconti, me dijo, vete, trabaja, vete a ser artista, ¿no? Y eso me ayudó mucho.
But it was my English teacher, who pushed me in this direction, who said, go, work, be a visual artist.
Por eso no aprendí inglés, porque me dijo, ponte a dibujar, y me mandó a dibujar.
So this is why I don't speak English, because I was drawing all day in class.
Okay.
Thank you. We have a question, the lady over there in black and white. Yeah.
Hello. Is it easier if I do the question in Spanish or in English first and he translates for whatever?
English is good. English is good. Thank you.
English is fine?
English.
Okay. Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you very much, Sebastian, for coming to Ireland and for giving this very illustrative talk about your work. It's fascinating, and I had never seen the transformables. They are absolutely incredible. And my question comes from you create these monuments that are put in different places throughout different cities. My question has to do with you mentioned that you want to make art democratic. So my question has to do with the social aspect of your work. How much thought do you put into how people are going to deal with the object that you're going to place within a certain community? Do you have talks with the community there before you actually start to think about the project, or I think it's many. I'm just curious about the site specificity of pieces and how people react to this and just.
Perfect. That's wonderful. Thank you very much. Would you want to translate that?
Diseñas y creas estos monumentos públicos enormes. La pregunta es el trabajo social, o sea, la responsabilidad social que usted tiene.
El asunto es muy claro. En México, la Escuela Mexicana de Pintura, los tres grandes maestros de la pintura mexicana,
the three great maestros of Mexican visual art
hicieron de las alegorías obras de arte, de alegorías para comunicar un mensaje político, un mensaje social, y lo hicieron maravillosamente.
They created allegories to describe or to express their feelings of what art should be socially, and they did it very beautifully.
Pero yo en mi obra no la mezclo con cuestiones de simbologías o de alegorías de tipo político.
But in my work, I don't use allegorical metaphors, social or sociological metaphors in my work.
La obra por sí misma cumple una función social.
The object in itself, the physical presence of the object, fulfills its social role.
Cuando hablo de que son democráticas, yo me refiero a que están puestas en un lugar y las pueden ver los pobres, los ricos, los feos, todo mundo, los bonitos. ¿Sí?
When I say that my work is democratic, I mean the work is physically present and they can be viewed by everybody. There's a multiplicity of interpretations: rich people, poor people, beautiful people.
Entonces pueden tener un goce estético igual y todos lo ven en la calle, porque están en la calle, porque son urbanas.
They exist in the street, they exist in the urban fabric, and this, in its nature, make them democratic objects. Everybody can have their own opinion, their own interpretation.
Pero, por ejemplo, de una manera muy abstracta, hacer una pieza que se llame La Antorcha de la Amistad tiene un mensaje para dos pueblos y para una relación política, y la tengo en San Antonio, Texas, de México, Estados Unidos.
But the one work that does very much answer your question specifically about a social aspect is the torch of friendship in San Antonio in Texas, which broaches the boundary, the frontier between the two countries, between the United States and Mexico.
O la puerta de la amistad en la isla de Santa Elena en Montreal.
Or the door of friendship in Montreal, in Canada.
Más o menos, sí.
Okay. Should we take another question? Richard, down here, and the lady on the end there.
It's a great privilege to have you with us, Sebastian. Thank you for coming. I'd like you to discuss, if you could for a moment, the relationship in your work between geometry and aesthetics.
Si puedes hablar un poco de la unión de la
estética y geométrica.
Muy bien.
Okay. Bueno, para hablar de eso tengo que pensar también en matemáticas.
So to do this, I have to think mathematically first.
Las matemáticas son fundamentales para la humanidad en todo.
Mathematics are something that are fundamental to humanity in all aspects.
Y un matemático con conciencia, cuando tiene la conciencia creativa, puede hacer un análisis y puede hacer una demostración matemática bellísima que puede convertirse en una percepción de sentimiento estético.
That a mathematician, when developing an idea, that idea can in itself be something that is aesthetically pleasing. The resulting process of a mathematical process, of a mathematical idea, can result in something that is physically, aesthetically beautiful.
Viéndolo desde ese punto de vista, la geometría es matemáticas, ¿sí?
So looking at it from this aspect, geometry is mathematics, essentially.
Y la geometría es orden y desorden, entre comillas, ¿sí? La geometría permite estructurar y desestructurar, construir y destruir, pero desde el punto de vista estético, uno la arma para las dos partes, la arma con un lenguaje. Yo utilicé es que se alarga mucho, yo utilicé, es que me emociono, perdón. Yo utilicé la geometría porque se me presta como si fueran las palabras o las letras, las sílabas, porque puedo hacer un lenguaje mío y decir cosas, pero la geometría es de todos y las palabras son de todos.
Geometry in its nature can be constructive and destructive. You can put something together, you can take something apart. So what I have attempted to develop, what I have endeavored to develop from this, is to take geometry and to turn it into my own language, to form my own grammar.
Pero no todos pueden usar las palabras para hacer poemas. Igual no todos pueden usar la geometría para hacer esculturas. Se necesita una condición creativa, ¿no?
So the way you can't simply use words to create poetry, you can't use geometry to create beauty. It's a question of understanding them both, of manipulating them both.
Y con eso, haciendo mi lenguaje, tiene proporción, número, matemáticas. Esencialmente, yo veo una función matemática y me emociono y la traigo y la transformo en un modelo escultórico.
So, when I see a mathematical formula, I endeavor to take it, to manipulate it, to imagine it in a three-dimensional form, and then ultimately to create it.
Hay, por ejemplo, una solución diferente al teorema de Pitágoras que hizo Bhaskara, un matemático hindú. Es la solución de Bhaskara. Y yo la vi y me emocioné. Entonces tomé la solución de Bhaskara, que es maravillosa, es plástica, es visual, y entonces la convertí en una columna y la convertí en un cubo y la convertí en objetos para el espectador, en esculturas, ¿no?
So to give you an example, I came across a new formula for the Pythagorean theorem.
Sí.
By Bhaskara, an Indian mathematician. And when I saw it, when it was in front of me, I became emotional. I knew I had to take this and to manipulate it and to make it into a visual form.
Y yo creo que hay que tener cierta pasión de amar la ciencia y las matemáticas para entonces poder entrar en una comunión de las dos partes, de arte y ciencia.
I think it's essential to engage, to actively involve mathematics, geometry in a work, so that it can fuse with aesthetics. It can join with aesthetics to become something new.
So just take one last question there. Thank you.
Buenas noches. Mi madre fue anoche a Clifton. Sábado, es impresionante, usted es un genius, pero ella dice que necesitas ir y ver. To understand your work, you have to see. I have a very simple question in comparison to others. How long does it take you to do a Rubik's Cube, and do you always win in Connect 4?
¿Cuánto tiempo tarda para hacer un cubo de Rubik's?
No. Yo hice esos cubos en los finales de los 60s. Todavía no existía el Rubik's. Y cuando yo vi el Rubik's, vi que era una creación extraordinaria, maravillosa, ¿no?
When I was making these, the concept of a Rubik's Cube didn't even exist yet, but ultimately, when I started to discover what a Rubik's Cube was, I was fascinated.
Pero yo dije, yo no lo voy a resolver ni perder mi tiempo en resolverlo.
No, I'm not
yo voy a hacer
it.
uno mío.
I'm not going to solve it. I'm not going to waste my time solving it. What I'm going to do is make one of my own.
Otro.
Y Connect 4, que también es Connect 4.
Sí.
Well, thank you so much for those questions. And it just remains for me to thank various people again, and in particular the artist himself, for such a wonderful presentation. You might want to give him a round of applause for that right now.
Muchas gracias. Solo voy a decir nada más algo que se me quedó. Yo creo que es fundamental para el futuro de la humanidad, cuando estén vinculados bien entendidos, arte, ciencia y tecnología, pero bien entendidos, la humanidad va a ser mejor. Creo en el arte, la ciencia y la tecnología. Es todo.
I want to finish by saying that when we learn to engage the three concepts of art, science, and technology, when we fuse them together to form a new model, we will have a better humanity, we will have a better world.
Gracias. Thank you.
So let me close by saying thank you again to the Embassy, to the Ambassador and to his Deputy Head of Mission, Enrique Palos, who stepped in at the last minute today. And I thank the Provost of our university for his support of these particular events here and the visual arts at Trinity. And in advance for his formal involvement tomorrow in our launch, and for the formal involvement of the Ambassador, the artist and the Lord Mayor's office. I would like to reiterate our thanks to Smurfit Kappa. And finally, but very importantly, special thanks to Carolyn Kelly, curatorial assistant here with the Art Collections, who is sitting in the corner over there, for her very hard work on this project and tonight's event, and for dealing with the surprises of technology as well as sculptures. Our gratitude must also extend to the teams behind the scenes at Trinity, those in IT, those in security, and the Buildings Office in particular. Which leads me to close by reminding you to join us tomorrow at 10 a.m. in Sandymount, if you can, for the launch of On Colleen Bawn, or La Dama Blanca, in association with Dublin City Council, organised by their wonderful public art officer Rory O'Queeve, who's with us tonight, and who's always been great support to us here at Trinity. This event will be presided over by the Lord Mayor of Dublin. And of course, you must finish the morning with us here at Trinity at midday. At the Lincoln Place entrance, if you come to the Lincoln Place entrance to the university, you will see the sculpture ahead of you for the official unveiling of our wonderful new addition to the campus, Teach Múl, in the presence of Sebastian and the Provost, as I say, and the Ambassador and the Deputy Lord Mayor. Now, finally, thank you all for coming and for your enthusiasm and passion tonight. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, sí, qué bárbaro. Muchas gracias. Thank you. Thank you.